Hi guys, and welcome to this week's reading vlog when we're gonna sit down and read some of the biggest book titles on the internet right now that literally everyone and their mom has been raving about, to the point where I just know I need to cave because I need to see where those stories go. I need to see what the hype is about, and it's finally time that we're doing that. So let's see how that goes. Let's see if I find a new favorite book of all time, like everyone's just been claiming they've been doing with reading these books, which is why let's just jump right in. It's gonna be a fun one. So I have picked out 4 books for this video, all of which are new releases for the year of 2026. They're all like literary fiction or along those lines and whatnot, more thought-provoking books that you'd probably read and enjoy in book club. Some of them, I think all of them, have been featured on some sort of Goodreads list at some point for being like the most like critically acclaimed books. I think one of them even has like a movie deal at this point, to the point where they're all just so blown up on the internet ever since the day it came out that people have been raving and going on and on about these books, saying that they're like genuinely the best ones they've ever read, to the point where I want to feel that. There's nothing like reading a good new book, knowing that that's something that's probably changed your life for like the good and the better now, and I want that because I read a lot of romance and I feel like it's all fun and games, but the thing is these days they've all just been repeating because it feels like the same thing processed over and over again. So I feel like giving myself a break this week by reading something different would also be fun, but also what if that results in me finding like my newest favorite read of all time, if you know what I mean, because all of these books have very interesting premises, all like different from each other, so it doesn't feel like the same thing replicated, but also people claim that they're the best books of the internet at the moment, and I figured I want to put that to the test and see if it works for me as well, because I am a very critical reader. If I don't like something, even the slightest thing, if it gives me the ick, that's probably just going to make or break the book for me, which is why let's see how that goes for me in this week's reading vlog, because sometimes I can be very negative in my reading, but at the same time I have faith in the internet. Whatever they say about these books, hopefully I will end up enjoying at least one of them, and we shall see how it goes. But now let's just jump right into the first one that I'm starting, that has been literally everywhere for the past few months at this point. Everyone loves it, everyone's heard of it, and let's just see how I feel about it. So let's hop right in. That's going to be today's video, and it's going to be a really fun one, hopefully. So I don't know if you can really tell from out my window, but it's been raining non-stop. We're back on our red alert game for my town, which means I know it's like not safe and stuff to be going outside, but it does give me the perfect reading weather to be reading. And I feel like the book I just finished reading, it definitely gave me those gloomy vibes and the perfect setting as I was, listening and finishing out, to the point where it felt perfect. So let's sit down and discuss. The first one that I just finished out for the video, this one's called Yesteryear, and I feel like at this point everyone and their mother has read it. The whole reason I'm recording this video is so I could get a chance to incorporate this book and read it, because I've been just meaning to get to this for the longest time now, especially after seeing so many reviews and so many summaries that have truly intrigued me, and I wanted to see what everyone's raving about, because I feel like it's part of everyone's book club. I feel like any post, everyone's just like going on about it. My local bookseller, he has people who come there to buy special copies of the book and editions and stuff just because everyone's just so obsessed with it. So I want to see what the hype is about. I want to see why it's been blowing up, because I feel like even recently I think it got like a movie deal or something like that, and that doesn't happen so fast if a book has just been released a couple months ago or something like that, which is why I figured, okay, it's finally time for me to bite and actually see what I think about it. And for me personally, I feel like I'm a bit conflicted, but before we get into my thoughts, for a quick summary, this one we follow this trad life influencer Natalie. She lives the most idyllic, picture perfect life as she portrays online, wherein she lives in this like rustic farmland. Alright, she lives with her husband and her 6 children. They're the perfect little kids. They're living and sustaining off of the land and stuff like that, and they're trying to sell that perfect American household sort of picture to everyone online, except behind the scenes in real life, what she is selling is a scam, and she's well aware of it. She's just like almost gaslighting and denying it to herself and whatnot by saying that, oh, it's okay, people actually can't manage without any of it, because as it turns out, she's got like nannies running the show, they've got farmhands they've employed, everything else is very much just like scripted lies that she is trying to build an empire and profit off of. And nothing is as it seems the way she's selling it and marketing her brand online, until one day she wakes up and she's just like, wait a second, the stuff and the surroundings that she is in is not very familiar to her, and she's suddenly wondering what happened to the idyllic life she used to live, because she's woken up in this like really dusty cottage sort of place, very reminiscent of the 1800s. Alright, her husband is not the nice soft guy anymore, he's pretty much an asshole, and then her children, they're all like dirty, running around, they're trying to figure out what to do next and stuff, and they're also very hard on her, to the point where she's just like, wait a second, where did all my kitchen appliances go? Where did all my helpers go? And suddenly she realizes that, oh wait, she got transported back in the olden times of the pioneer times, the times that she was trying to mimic in her social media videos, except she actually made it back there. And now she just knows that this life is going to be the death of her, because it's not exactly as it seems the way she was marketing it online, now that she's actually living in it. And she needs to escape, but she doesn't know how to. And so she's trying to figure out what happened to her, that she ended up here in the first place. Is it a test by God? Has she time traveled? What's going on? And for me personally, I feel like this book is interesting. The last little bit that I just finished off listening to, I don't even know how to describe it, because I got such insane whiplash as you were finally getting answers. But I feel like the whole process of getting there, this book, I don't know how to describe it necessarily. It's good for a book club because it's very thought-provoking, but it feels a lot like social commentary, except that commentary feels like it's sort of demeaning everyone, if that makes any sense. So the girl, Natalie, I feel like she's written as a caricature of a character, kind of making fun of people who are more deeply rooted in their Christian beliefs. But then when she's speaking about other people, I feel like she herself is mocking people who are atheists and don't believe, and liberals. So I feel like either which way you read this book, it's just going to be a huge mockery in itself. And for someone who is not a Christian, right, it felt wrong to be reading someone else's faith being almost mocked in this weird way throughout. But then also, I don't really know how to describe it. I feel like I felt bad for her regardless, because she's villainized as a character throughout the whole thing. But as you keep realizing and reading it, you start to understand that, oh wait, it's not actually her fault, it's the society's and the views and the stuff that she's, being brought up in, and everything else that's kind of promoting this. But at the same time, she's just villainized to the last page. And then not just that, I feel like everything else that comes with it, her own thought processes and everything combined, just the way she's written as a character, it just felt so weird. It felt wrong to be reading about, if that makes any sense. But I was still, oddly invested to see where it would go. Picture like a train wreck, alright? I can't take my eyes away, right? But I still want to keep seeing it. And I know it's bad. It's a dumpster fire, but I still need to see what happens next. And all in all, to say, it was a very weird book. I don't know how to feel about it. At the moment, I just finished, so I'm going to give it like 3.5 stars, because it definitely takes a little bit to pick up. It definitely takes quite a bit of rhythm for you to actually get used to it. And I know people will be mad because everyone thinks it's like 5 stars, absolutely obsessed with online. It's just, for me personally, maybe it wasn't it, because I feel sort of weird about this book. I feel conflicted. I'm just wondering what's going on, because I do regret this book. So earlier this week, I had to actually go off for a concert, and on the way there, I didn't have anything to do. And also in the queue and stuff, I was reading on my phone because I got my library copy finally on Libby, and so it made sense to read it that way. But then now I changed over to audiobook because I feel like it wasn't going anywhere and I was getting bored and I didn't want to slump myself out. But then as I was listening, it started to pick up towards the end, and I was just pissed off and equally as frustrated with everyone. And now that I got to the end of it, I'm wondering what the point of it was, which is usually the case in literary fiction, because you need to be connected to the characters to actually enjoy a character-driven story, because most of them, they have like an overarching plot, but that plot is mainly, in my own opinion, used for the marketing purposes, so people know what they're actually getting into when they're buying the book. The actual book, when you read it, it's more about the characters. And for me personally, I didn't understand any of it. I feel like in terms of connection to any of these people, I just thought they were all insufferable in a way. And what happened at the end, they had it coming, but at the same time, I almost felt pity for the characters. So I feel like it would make a very interesting movie if it does end up getting adapted at whatever point, or show, or whatever it's being adapted into. And I definitely do think I will watch it whenever it does come out, because I feel like it would be interesting to just like look over it again. It's not my favorite book of all time like people have been claiming elsewhere, and maybe that's just because it's not really my usual reading taste. But at the same time, I feel like it was an interesting book to switch things up with sometimes in the middle, because I feel like reading romance gets very repetitive and that's all I do all the time. So I feel like this definitely was a change in pace and very well appreciated, because I still wanted to see where it would go. It's just the actual turn it took, I don't know, I'm really confused, especially the ending. Like the way things actually panned out when we started getting answers, like it was insane. And I don't know, I'm still reeling from the whiplash, alright? It's crazy. I didn't see that coming for sure, and then once the pieces started clicking, it made so much sense. But at the end of the day, I'm still wondering, was it even for me? Because I'm so confused, which is why, I don't know, I did understand the story, I'm just confused on what I feel about it, which is why overall at the moment it's 3.5 stars. I might up it to a 4, but no more than that I feel, because I still feel like not the best book I've ever read, which is why that's it for this one. We'll move on to our next. But this one I was most excited to read for the video, and now that I've actually read it, I can definitely see why people are hyping it up and obsessing over it. It just, I don't think it necessarily was for me, but still, I'm starting to learn my tastes even better and enjoy books regardless, and actually actually get into something on my TBR that I've been looking forward to. So I don't think it was like a loss in any sense. It's just, now I'm done with it and I feel really weird. So I'm just gonna go pick up the next book, probably listen to it as an audiobook because I get a couple things done. And yeah, that's it for my update. I will get to it now. See you all in a bit and bye. So I just finished the next book for this video, and you guessed it, it's something I would not have expected on my initial 2026 bingo card in terms of reading, because I just finished Belle Burden's memoir. It's called Strangers. We speak about it in a second, but all in all to say, this is not something I typically gravitate towards, because in my entire lifetime so far, I've only read like, I think a couple memoirs, and while I have had a great time reading the ones that I have read, it's something that I don't normally gravitate towards because I feel like reading non-fiction kind of intimidates me. Hopefully I'll get to a point someday in my life wherein it doesn't, and for the moment it does. So I don't want to like force myself into reading something that I'm scared will put me in a slump, which is why, because it's out of my comfort zone, I never read it. But I've been hearing such incredible things about this one specifically online that I figured I'll buy it. It's been on every Goodreads like list since as well, and people just rave about it and the way it's written and the expression of the author in it, that I figured, okay, I think I'm gonna cave, I'm gonna read it. And while this isn't, again, typically for my demographic, I believe, because it follows Belle as she's going through this divorce and ugly part of her marriage. We'll get to that in a second. And I definitely cannot relate to any of that, at least at the moment, again, where I'm in my life. I still had a great time reading, so let's speak about it. And all in all to say, I think this book has convinced me that at least once a year, I would like to pick up another like non-fiction book and whatnot and read it, be it a memoir, be it anything else, just because this one was so good. I hope she writes more books, because I would genuinely be the first one to read it, because I enjoyed myself. And so let's discuss. On a quick premise, in this we follow Belle Burden because it's her memoir, as she kind of follows the story of how she's the mother of the family, and around the time the pandemic hit, so in like 2020, she had this one main concern, and that was like taking care and protecting her family, making sure everyone's okay. And as it turns out, these days that were full of monotony and also the strain and stress of making sure everyone was okay, she was already like breaking up inside. But the final like nail in the coffin, or the thing that actually cracked it, was when she actually figures out that her husband of 20 years was apparently cheating on her. And when she confronts him and she says that okay, she's ready to work it out with like marriage counseling and stuff, he ends up saying that no, he doesn't want to do that, and he ends up leaving his entire life with her and their children behind. Even though they've been doing it for 20 years, he leaves his wife and his kids for the woman he was having the affair with. And so essentially this is Belle's essential like story, as she kind of re-examines her entire relationship, the course of it, with the lens of now someone who's already gone through what happened in that stage of her life, and she's kind of figuring out what kind of led to it, and maybe things she could have caught on early in the relationship, and kind of analyzing stuff that's happened to her and events that led up to what happened, and then afterward, her coping, her trying to figure out and trying to be a voice that's actually trying to be heard. Because in the book, you keep getting told that as a person in society, all the other influential friends they had around her, they all assumed she'd be this one like submissive woman who will get all trampled around by her because a man walked out on her. And the thing is, she doesn't want that to define her legacy, so she's going ahead and putting her account of it, and she's not going to be, let down and whatnot. And I feel like in that aspect, it was really good. But overall, the way this book is written, it feels like a conversation with someone like you're close to. So I would picture her as like an older aunt that I'm meeting up with for lunch, even though that's literally impossible, would never happen. But like an older aunt I'm sitting down with, we're grabbing sandwiches, she's talking to me, she's telling me her life story, and I'm just enthralled to see where it keeps going. Because the way she wrote this book, she has a certain way of kind of taking the narrative along, that obviously what her husband James has done throughout the entire time to her, but somehow she still sympathizes with him and the stuff that's happened in his past. Obviously it does not excuse and justify any of the things he did and any of the things following in the book, but she kind of humanizes him in a way I don't think anyone else would have. Because frankly, if you were to picture someone who's writing a memoir on the similar subject, me personally, I know I'd be really petty. So the fact that she was able to be the bigger person and write about it in this sort of like all-encompassing lens, wherein you get almost like a way of understanding, if not being able to relate to the perspectives, I thought that was incredible. But also, you can definitely see that she comes from like a different class in society, because there's this one reference in some point in the book wherein when she's getting married, her mom was friends with Calvin Klein, the Calvin Klein. So he designed her wedding dress, and so from that aspect only, and also like the rest of her bloodline and her family tree as it's explained, they are influential rich people that obviously you won't be able to relate to. But she writes in this way, and she writes in this voice, that it doesn't matter what she's been bestowed with in life, what she goes through and the pain she experiences, it's similar to everyone else, and it kind of shows you how whoever you cut, we all are going to bleed red. And I feel like that, just the way it was done, was really good, because I saw some reviews online saying that, oh, this was out of touch and you know what, she deserved it. Nope. I think that personally the way she was able to encompass her pain and kind of experience and make you experience the narrative in a sort of way that shows you that, hey, this could happen to anyone, our status notwithstanding, and anyone can go through that level of pain and feel all those emotions despite the fact that, oh, they're rich, because being rich does not excuse you from feeling like pain and stuff. I thought that was beautifully depicted. I really enjoyed reading it, and I wanted to see again where things would keep going. And all I'll say is, I know she humanized him, but, and she will never hear this, but Belle Burden, I hate James. I don't care if you do, if you don't, I hate him on your behalf. The things she had to go through in this book, I was just so pissed off that, you know, someone was dealt such a shitty hand, and obviously other people go through it as well, which is why this definitely is non-fiction, encouraging me to read more and find out more of other people's stories. But yeah, it's a great one. It drew feelings out of me, it drew emotions out of me. I was so invested to see it go through and whatnot. And earlier this week I actually started the audiobook of this, only a few chapters, to see if I'd be able to read it in the time span of this video. Otherwise I wouldn't include it anyway. I would do it on my own time, simply because it's a memoir. I don't generally read non-fiction, so I don't know how long it would take, and I wanted it to be in the video, which is why I just wanted to see the flow of things. And at that point itself I couldn't put it down, so I was really waiting for the day that I could get back to it and then return to it for the video. And now that I finally have been able to, all I'll say is I'm so happy. And yeah, did not expect this to be as good as it was and the way I felt over it. And again, it's not something that I would connect to at this stage in my life, but somehow she still made me feel for her and for her story and empathize with her. And that again is a true trait for a great author, because what do you mean words on paper about someone else's life story that I haven't even met in real life, that I don't know, made me feel all of this? You know what I mean? So there's that. But I will not be rating this book because, like I've said in the other couple of times I've read memoirs and stuff, it's about someone else's real life. It feels extremely wrong to attach like a number rating of my thoughts and opinions on it, which is why I won't rate this, but just know that I really had an amazing time reading it. And that all in all being said, I had a great time, so I'm happy I picked this one up, and hopefully the next book makes me feel that way as well, because this was truly great. And I think I might be experiencing like a genre shift from what I generally read, because I'm having a good time so far already, that maybe I'm going to be staying away from romance for the next few weeks or whatnot. We shall see, who knows. But so far so good, which is why let's see what happens next, what book I end up picking up. And yeah, that's it for this one. Gonna have dinner now. See you all tomorrow, I think, directly once I have my next book ready. And that's about it, so bye. Hi guys, so it's update time, because it's now 2 days later, even though I technically finished the book yesterday, but then also I was heading out to a party. Everything was like sort of rush, so I figured, okay, let me just like chill out for a sec. When I get back I'll speak to you. But then I was too tired when I returned home, which is why here I am right now the very next day to come discuss our next book and then continue the final book for the vlog, because today is Saturday. I would like to get it done as soon as I can, so that, you know, I can start editing for the day and whatnot, as I usually do on Saturdays. And then Sunday, tomorrow's posting day, not this video, but then I'll still like to get my things done. All in all to say, I did finish the book that I wanted to come speak to you about. This one's called Lost Lambs, and then after that I will get to the next book very, very soon. Not too far into it, but it won't be too long anyway, because I have other things to be doing as I'm listening, so I'm not really worried about that one. I just figured we'll discuss this before I go off to do that. And this one's called Lost Lambs, and all I'll say is, ever since I saw Yesteryear, I saw this in my bookseller, my local bookseller. Whenever he posts on his like Insta stories and stuff in his newsletter, he always like posts updates about the new stock that's come in. And when I saw Yesteryear, I saw a stack of like 20 of these copies in his store as well. But then like 2 days later he posted saying, oh, it's gone out of stock, just give us another couple days, we shall restock. He restocked after 2 days again. It was a stack of 20, both of this and Yesteryear gone again, and within like a week and whatnot, which is why I figured I've been seeing this everywhere. I want to include in the vlog because the cover for some reason was giving me really strong like 5-star vibes, and so I figured maybe this will be the one, who knows. And because I did partially enjoy Yesteryear, whatever it was, I did want to go ahead and pick this up, see what the hype for this one is about as well. And it's nothing like it, but it does make sense why it's on, again, book lists and stuff, thought-provoking book for book club, because in this we actually follow this one family and their dynamics. And one of the top reviews I read actually said that if you picture Wes Anderson writing Little Women, this is basically that. And I can definitely relate as someone who's studying film and animation, because last year we had a whole course on his movies and stuff, and then it makes sense now as I've read it, the review. But for me personally, it didn't work. So first I'll give you a quick premise and then my own thoughts. The family that you're following, it's kind of falling apart because the parents, Bud and Catherine, their open marriage is actually falling apart. And then they have 3 daughters. The oldest daughter, she's dating a man in his 20s. The middle daughter, she has this online boyfriend who is a terrorist, and then the youngest daughter, she's a delinquent, so she's getting sent away to reformation camp. And the father, who his marriage is falling apart, Bud, he works for this shipping company, and as it turns out, the company is owned by this billionaire called Paul Alabaster. And because the youngest daughter has really nothing to do, like I said, she's a delinquent, everything else that comes with it, she ends up kind of prying into the father's accounts and stuff as he's running the workload for that company. And she finds out that, oh wait, something's going wrong in the money transfer and stuff, and trying to get down to the bottom of it, to the point where they all get embroiled in this sort of conspiracy theory with that billionaire, trying to figure out what's happening next. And the family is falling apart, but then there's also things happening on the outside with that, and you really can't guess where it's gonna go next, because this one's insane. And I did look up the publication date, because it feels very similar to stuff that happened and stuff that came out at the beginning of this year. So I don't know how, but also it just makes sense. And at the same time, yourself as you're reading, you're trying to figure out what's going on. And it's definitely a book to release at this point in time and whatnot, especially with the political opinions that it comes with, because for me personally, I read fiction for fun. And the thing is, I'm sorry, if your political opinions do not align with basic human rights, I don't know, I don't even know what to say, because stuff that happens in this book towards the end of it, it was all smooth sailing, it was all going okay. I was ready to overlook certain aspects of it, but then once you got to the very end of it, something happens, and I found that extremely racist and against my own opinions, which is why I'm gonna give this 2 stars. It was already a rough book to go through with, because while it does have an overall plot structure that I just described, it really goes nowhere. It's very slow, it's very boring. I got bored the entire time I was reading it, and it was a rougher read to get through with. But then once we get to those actual aspects, they started pissing me the shit out, because what do you mean I stuck my way through this book only to get to the end of it? And I read that, and that just feels so inhuman, the way you read it and whatnot, and the author's trying to justify it, and it felt extremely wrong. All in all, to say I didn't like the book. I don't think I'll ever read anything else by the author, and I'm extremely let down, because 2 stars. However, if you want to read it, you can. Just please go in remembering that stuff happens at the end, that again, whatever. And then also there's this one part in the middle wherein the father, he's looking at the body of his younger girl as they're going swimming and whatnot, and it's sexualized in a weird way, so that also came across as disgusting to me. I was ready to overlook that, but then the ending, that was the last strike on the match for me. Is that even a saying? I don't know. But all in all, to say all of that combined, I didn't like the book. I don't even know what that was. I would never, if I had to go to a book club when we were speaking about this or whatnot, I think I'd probably skip book club, just because I can't. Alright, some books I can't get on the page with, some books I can't line along with, and this is one of them. And thankfully it's over now, so hopefully the next one will be better. I'll get around to it now, and I'll see you all in a bit once I have things to say. But that's my update. I'm already getting so pissed off, so let me just go cool down for a sec. See you all in a bit once I have the next one complete, and that's it. Bye. Alright guys, and at this point I've gone ahead and finished the final book for this video as well. It was longer than it should have been, which is why it took me longer to get through with it, because even though I was listening to the audiobook and I started crocheting this really fun project, I will get to showing you the final result once I'm fully done with it, maybe next week's video. But whatever, as I was crocheting that, I was kind of listening to this. This book was so long, I did manage to get a decent amount of it done, but at the same time, I'm nowhere near finishing, and now I'm finally done with the book. So I figured update time before I end the video off, because this will be the final book we're reading in this vlog. This one's called Into the Blue. At this point, I feel like every household has heard of the name. Everyone's just been obsessing over it everywhere. I feel like I haven't seen a single negative review for this anywhere I go. The entire internet, every single booktube I follow, everyone's given it 5 stars. So I really wanted to love this book, and it was again another 5-star prediction for me. But then now that I've read it, I feel like I'm probably gonna be like the biggest critic and whatnot, because I did not like it. And that's so interesting because I feel like I've only seen positive reviews so far. I haven't seen a single negative review, and by that I mean negative as in I've seen nothing other than 5 stars for this specific book. So I don't know what went wrong when I read it. Did we not read the same book? Because I didn't have a good time. So let's dissect that. For a quick premise, we follow AJ. It's the year 2000 and she's working in this like video rental store or something like that. And her dreams have always been to be like a scriptwriter and stuff for her things, whatever she writes, to get like adapted into like movies or shows or something of that lines and whatnot. Except she comes from like a large like working class family, and she's not really sure when that dream will come true for her, because again, it's like a dream, and her reality is that she needs the money to help her family and whatnot more desperately, because like again, it's just the reality of life. Except as she's working at that store, one day in walks this guy called Noah Drew, and he actually is of the Drew like acting dynasty, because his family is well known for, you know, being Hollywood's biggest like actors and stuff. His aunt is huge in that industry, his uncle also huge. And so when he walks in, they're supposed to like be on completely different paths because they've had different upbringings and stuff, but at the same time something happens, a spark lights up, and suddenly the two of them have this like instant connection as friends and whatnot that starts to develop as they start becoming acting partners and rehearsing together, because they have this like undeniable on-screen chemistry. They have this bond that you won't find anywhere, and it forges instantly to the point where they just know that they'll be each other's one and only forever, because something about it, again, they're opposites, but it's not necessarily opposites attract. It's more like they've found their one person in the world, and that should be it. They should be on their roads to like finding their happily ever after. Except something mysterious happens, and suddenly he just like vanishes into thin air. He disappears. She doesn't know how to get him back, track him down, anything of the sort, and suddenly that's it for their interactions as a kid. Now moving along to present timeline, this is like 7 years later. Somehow she got cast into this show that's taking place, that the producers have him cast as the lead role opposing her and stuff, which means she has to be acting in the same show as him. She's gonna come in contact with him again, and at this point his career is at its peak and whatnot. He's like Hollywood's biggest heartthrob and stuff, so she doesn't know what to expect of him. She doesn't know what to expect, knowing that he walked out 7 years ago and she hasn't heard from him since. But as they start being alongside each other and whatnot, they realize they still have that undeniable like bond and whatnot, and the producers see it, so they start giving them more time, which results to them hanging out and being in this forced proximity sort of situation even longer, to the point where now they're forced to like confront what happened in the past to the two of them, what broke them apart, and if they can have a future together, because there's like certain things in his life that he did not reveal, but as they start coming to the light, it starts kind of obscuring any like chance for a happily ever after, because it's deep, it's sad, and it's gonna hurt them in the end. But you know, they want to figure their way out still, because it's only been them for each other. They've loved each other ever since, and that's the story. And for me personally, now let me break it down. Firstly, it felt very long. It was very boring. I wish this was cut down. I wish there was more added to it, because I did not have a good time with any of that. Second, when they first meet at the beginning, she is 17, he's 21. Why can't authors just make their characters not minors in books? Because that felt so weird to read about, which is why when I was reading that, I was getting icked out, and so there was no like initial connect formed between me and the characters for me to actually care for them, which is why I did not see any chemistry or any like emotional connection between the two of them either. And so it just felt wrong as I was reading all of that, which is why when we segued into like the present scenes and stuff, I just hated the two of them as a couple. I didn't want to keep reading about them. I didn't want to see them, because it just felt so weird and wrong. But then as you keep reading, you just start to realize that, hey, maybe they're better off not together, and maybe both of them need to go into therapy, because there's a lot of unresolved shit. Even the way this book ends, there's so many questions I have, none of them are answered. It feels like such like a big letdown, because so many things, there's so many unresolved like plot holes at this point that we need to sit down and discuss those. Apart from that, their actual connection back when they meet again as adults, it just felt again so weird and wrong to read about, because it's toxic and it's messy and it's supposed to like represent real love, but when you read it, it's just like again weird in the overall sense, because something happens that makes this guy think that he can't deserve like a happily ever after. And so while he's wallowing in his own like self pity and misery, which he can't do that, he well has like earned the right to, especially with what's revealed, is just the fact that he's dragging her down along with him is not sitting right with me, because she should just like get her own distance and go away and probably find someone else. But the way they keep like dragging each other into each other's orbit, if that makes any sense. Like they're very wrong for each other right off the bat, but after the whole reveal with him is made, and the fact that she still keeps going back to him even though he doesn't even treat her well, despite the fact that she's able to put up with what's gonna happen and stuff, and she's ready to accept that they won't have like a great future together, he doesn't give her any sort of consideration. It's always about him. And then when you start reading her scenes and she finally lashes out at him, she tells him that he deserves to be something. And like that was just so wrong to read about. Like what did I just read? That was messed up. But then as you keep reading, you start to realize that it's all very repetitive, because it feels like, I've seen that film before and I already know the ending, because at this point it's just like there's a huge confession, they end up having a physical scene, and then right after that they have this like whole fight or something like that, and it keeps repeating into the whole segue over and over again to the end of the book. And overall it was so dull. I didn't see any connection, so I couldn't care less for them. And at the same time, when all of this just keeps happening, it just felt like the same process stuff over and over for whatever page count it was, which is why I didn't like the book. I'm going to give it 2 stars, which is so sad because everyone loves it. So why was I the outlier here? But at the same time, I can't find it in myself to give it anything more than that, because I truly hated everything that went down in it. At some points, I was like physically cringing when I was listening to the audiobook, because the shit that goes down in this book. Like, if this was supposed to happen to someone in real life, they need to seek professional help first and foremost. And then after that, I don't even know what, but just know that this is not the kind of book I want to be reading about, which is why, unfortunately, did not enjoy this. And I'm so disappointed because I wanted to love this, which is why here we are. With that, we have reached the end of this video. I have read my final book, 2 stars, and we're done with Into the Blue now. So now that we have reached the end of this vlog, if you guys did have a good time coming along with me, regardless of how I didn't necessarily like the last couple books, like, comment, share, subscribe. YouTube thinks you know how to do them. And now I'll see you hopefully very soon for our next week's vlog, and hopefully that'll be much better than this one, because I feel like looking back in this video, there were a couple of bad reads, one okayish mid read, and the only one I truly enjoyed was the Memoir, because if I were to rate it, that's like an easy 5 stars looking back. I just won't, because it's someone's life story. I can't rate it in numbers, but that was so good. And so that was definitely the gem of this video. It's just the rest of the books, they weren't worth reading in my opinion, because I think I just need to stick to my good old romance the way it works for me. That's the only essence. And I feel like literary fiction is just not for me. I keep trying, and sometimes it really hits. Example, Lessons in Chemistry. Sometimes I end up the way I ended up in the last few books, because even the last one, it was supposed to be like a romance. It was supposed to have like a romantic plot and whatnot underneath all the grieving and everything else in the fictional sort of, I wouldn't call it literary fiction, but something along those lines sort of world. It still didn't work for me, because I felt so weird reading the entire thing, which is why I think it's just not for me. And that's okay, because again, reading tastes differ for everyone. That's the beauty of reading, which is why hopefully next week's video will be better than this one. But until then, I'll see you all directly next week. And so take care, stay safe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching this one. And that's about it for today. So bye.